Hello fellow mutants, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to talk about how Kathleen Kennedy said that Star Wars needs to be James Bond-like events. Let's give this a read. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy has spoken about the future of Star Wars on the big screen, emphasizing that she wants new theatrical releases to be James Bond-like events from now on. Lucasfilm and Disney announced not one, not two, but 3 new live-action Star Wars films at Star Wars Celebration in April. But Kennedy has suggested that they are in no rush to have them ready by a set date. Instead, she would like the future movies to feel more like a fence. "Quote unquote, I've brought up Bond. That's every 3 or 4 years, and there wasn't the pressure to feel like you had to have a movie every year. I feel like it's very important to Star Wars. We have infantilized this. It's much better to tell the truth that we're going to make these movies when they're ready to be made and release them when they're ready to be released." Maybe she's saying that because Disney got on her case about "stop announcing stuff only to cancel it. Announce stuff when they're ready. God damn it. Because they're making a bad look on us. We need public favor. We need public opinion to be in our favor, not against us. So you're making it harder for us, Kennedy. And to that extent, I can say I agree with. Because as a Star Wars fan who likes the George Lucas era of Star Wars better than the Disney era of Star Wars, the one thing that I'd say that probably annoys me the most in the Disney era Star Wars is they keep announcing stuff, right? But then most of that stuff gets canned. So, for example, the Rey movie. It was announced that we're going to get a Rey movie, right? And I've been personally saying that make movies more like in the sequel trilogy era. You guys made these sequel trilogy characters, right? People like me has been critical about that timeline. Because poor writing. I want an excuse to like Rey. I want an excuse to like Finn more. Because I do like Finn. I want an excuse to, enjoy that era. You guys haven't given me really any reason. I've been extremely critical. Sure, I did aspects of the sequel trilogy, like Luke raising the X-Wing out of the water. That was pretty cool. I did enjoy the whole Force Awakens movie. I thought that was a beautiful setup, despite it being a rehash of A New Hope. I did enjoy in The Last Jedi that debate that Luke and Rey had about I believe it was the second lesson that was shown when Luke was saying that now that Jedi are dead, the Jedi romanticized deified, and how he was saying that the Jedi at that time essentially allowed the Dread cities to rise to power and take control of the galaxy, and Rey was saying, but it was a Jedi hinting at Luke that essentially helped bring out the good in Vader and help the galaxy be rid of the Empire. I like that second lesson, as well as that lesson what is the Force, and Rey in her ignorance said controlling people and lifting rocks, and Luke was saying, sit here, cross your legs, and gave a little description of what the Force was. That was the first great introductory lesson. I wish they brought in the third lesson too into the faction, because that could have been a good lesson to see on the big screen, and a good lesson for Rey to learn. Okay, maybe Luke was partially I guess matching with Rey, but that could have been a good lesson to Rey saying, okay, I need to like think more besides just rushing into stuff. That's because I could make it for myself, kind of like how I did just now, or worse. So there are elements I have enjoyed in the sequel trilogy, admittedly, but for the most part, like I'm like, over the sequel trilogy. Like 9% of me is like, the sequel trilogy is I want shows. I want new content in the sequel trilogy era to make me enjoy that era. Because, like with the Clone Wars, I'll get back to this article. Like with the prequels, there were some people that were critical of the prequels. And even though the prequels are like my favorite trilogy, I can understand some of those criticisms. But what I hope brings some of those critics to enjoy that trilogy timeline better is the Clone Wars shows. Regardless if you're talking about the micro series or these 7-season series. The Clone Wars helped make fans more appreciative of that series. Of the trilogy, right? And I want that for the sequel trilogy. I'm one of those people that wants to be appreciative, like enjoy the era, but let's be real, resistant to do shit. Anyways, let's continue because I went on this like long ass tangent that I'm sorry. Anyways, when a release window for the next Star Wars movie is unknown, we have James Mangold is creating. We know that James Mangold is creating a film about the Dawn of the Jedi. Filoni is focusing on the New Republic era, and Sharman Obaid-Chinoy is directing a movie that centers around Daisy release Rey. And this is what Kathleen Kennedy says, explaining their plan. So, quote unquote, what we're exploring is the evolution of the Jedi. We're going very far back. We're looking at the present, and now we're moving 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. The First Order has fallen. The Jedi are in chaos. There are questions of how many Jedi exist anymore, and Rey building the new Jedi Order based on her text she was given by Luke, and that Luke imparted to her. More like she stole. Because he technically took them. Luke didn't know until like Yoda burned down that hut, telling Luke that that girl has everything she needs. Don't worry, the books are safe, and they weren't page turners or anything. So Rey can make an argument that Rey stole the Jedi text, or saved the Jedi text. Depends on how you look at things. Anyways, these projects mark Star Wars' return to the big screen after a multi-year absence. The last theatrical Star Wars release was 2019's The Rise of Skywalker, which concluded the Skywalker saga that first began with the release of the original Star Wars trilogy from 1977 to 1983. Since then, the galaxy far, far away have pivoted into episodic storytelling on Disney Plus through series like Mandalorian, Andor, and more. That side is also expanding with first looks to the Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, and Ahsoka shown to Star Wars Celebration attendees. So, here's my take on this. So, it's... because I also seen some other people's reaction to this as well, and I'm kind of in agreement with this, like Star Wars Theory. For example, he was saying that that's what they did with the original trilogy. New Hope, or Star Wars at the time, 1977. Empire Strikes Back, 1980. Return of the Jedi, 1983. And then we got like The Phantom Menace in 1999. Attack of the Clones, 2002. Revenge of the Sith, 2005. And then you can say, if for argument's sake, I'll say Clone Wars, which I believe like 5, 6, yeah. Clone Wars was released in 2008, 3 years after Revenge of the Sith, which Clone Wars was my first Star Wars movie that I've seen in theaters. And even though, yes, you can say that seeing like there was some sort of events, The Force Awakens was an event. Like, to be fair, that was the first Star Wars movie in Disney's lineup, so to be fair. But like, Rogue One was an event. That was released a year after The Force Awakens. And public perception of that film was pretty good. The Last Jedi was released a year after that. Now, that's when the fandom split. But the lead up was into that was an event in its own. And you can say to a certain extent, Solo might have been an event to a certain extent. Not as big as like Episode 7, 8, and Rogue One. But to a certain degree, you can kind of say it was like a small event. But the Rise of Skywalker was definitely an event. Good or bad, with despite the aftermath of like how it was perceived towards like after it was released, the Rise of Skywalker was an event. Partially because that was, as far as we knew, the conclusion of the Skywalker saga. This Rey movie, you can say it's like a continuation of it, but I think they mean like, in terms of episodic films, Episode 9 was the last of the Skywalker saga. So I think like you can still make release the films each year and still have them an event. Now, like with as long as you can focus on storytelling, good storytelling, without having to like inject your personal beliefs, like making your personal beliefs a focal point, and making like your characters to marry Sue, and making some of your characters like more important than they actually are. Like how Finn was, they made Finn was, and how Rey was to marry Sue. I think they should be fine. Like, focus on good storytelling. I'm telling you, it's not about the years that were in between. It's fans want good storytelling. Jedi Fallen Order is a good game. I've heard Jedi Survivor is also a good game. In terms of story and gameplay. Battlefront 2. Sorry. Fun gameplay. I'm talking about the Disney version. I'm not including the original version because that had a good story. My point is, people want good storytelling, right? And I think you can do that yearly, the annual release. Because my best example has to be The Force Awakens and Rogue One. Rogue One came out a year after The Force Awakens. My favorite Star Wars movie under Disney is Rogue One. And still to this day, I enjoyed The Force Awakens more so as a solo film than part of the sequel trilogy, because The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker was But my point is, first, Kennedy is saying that Star Wars needs to be like a James Bond-like event. Technically, before her role, it was kind of like to put it in her terms, a James Bond event. The original trilogy, each movie was like people want to see. The prequels, including Clone Wars, people want to see. They re-released the Return of the Jedi relatively recently, like a few weeks ago, by the time I'm recording this video. That made a shit ton of money. And that was, released a year after Rogue One was re-released? It was also, I've heard, make a shit ton of money. I saw Rogue One, I couldn't, I had some like plans pre-made that prevented me from watching Return of the Jedi in theaters. But still, Return of the Jedi made a crap ton of money, coming after the re-release of Rogue One. So Kathleen Kennedy can't say that making it like every few years being a fan thing, because clearly both Return of the Jedi, which they did like no marketing on, and Andor, which they did, and Rogue One, which they did marketing on, part of Ghost of the Andor show, both were events in themselves when they were really released. So, and they were like, Rogue One, Return of the Jedi were re-released a year apart, essentially. I think less than a year's time, technically, more like 8 months' time. I want to say, give or take. It hasn't even been a full year, and we had like 2 Star Wars re-releases. Both made a crap ton of money. So like, I think that kind of proves in itself that people will bring their asses to the theaters to see Star Wars. Just have to focus on good writing, and you get praise. Rogue One gets a lot of praise. It has some some things that people critique on, but it has a lot of praise. So will the original trilogy, the prequels, Clone Wars movie. So I think Lucasfilm is capable of making good movies. Sure, they're under new management, but still. I think they're capable. Because, like I said, Rogue One, I enjoy. Even to this day. I'll gladly rewatch Rogue One any day. Because Rogue One is literally my favorite Star Wars movie. Under Disney. That comes to The Force Awakens. So, I don't know. My point is, the whole waiting like every 3 or 4 years thing, sure it can help a bit, but at the same time, like, The Force Awakens and Rogue One being released like about a year after The Force Awakens proves that Star Wars, or Disney Star Wars, is capable of creating compelling enough stories for fans to sit their asses in theaters and get excited. They're capable. But will they do it? It's a better question. I don't know. And I do want Star Wars to succeed. I really do. I do passionately love Star Wars. I do want the best for Star Wars. And I do want Disney to step up their A game. Because, to be fair, to be honest, I feel like Disney Star Wars isn't as, like, on the same level as George Lucas era. So, with that said, what do you guys think? Like, let me know in the comment section down below. I think Kathleen Kennedy still doesn't fully get it. I don't think she gets it. She really gets it yet. But with that said, love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. I will talk to you fellow mutants later.